Hey, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Akakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the great millstone. And peace and blessing to you, true brothers of the house of David, doing this thing with your blood, sweat, and tears to glorify the Lord's name. Then this video is going to be pertaining to the death of Saul, the dishonorable death of Saul. When you look at the life of Saul, Saul was anointed by Samuel because our people wanted a king. They wanted a king more than the Most High. So the Lord told Samuel, go ahead and anoint this Benjamite, and he will be king over this people. And Saul, what happened? Little by little, the Lord said, kill the Amalekites, smite them even to the wall, don't let any of them live. And Saul let the king live, and he spared some of the Amalekites. So he was disobedient to the word of the Lord. And the Lord actually rejected and spewed him out of his mouth and took that Holy Spirit from Saul. And he actually gave it to his neighbor David, because David was a man according to the Lord's heart. And after that, the only thing that Saul had left was fucking hatred, malice, envy, jealousy. And his whole life was pertaining to try to kill David and try to smite David to the wall. Every time that David played that violin or played that musical instrument, that evil spirit came upon Saul. Like, he took that javelin, he tried to smite David to the wall, man. And the thing is, you got to recognize that men are prophesying in these last days, and men are teaching the truth. But many men are in an evil, covetous, and wicked spirit, man. Just like Saul was. Now, we're going to go ahead and read 1 Samuel. We're going to read some of these chapters, and we're going to see what led up to the dishonorable death of Saul. What happened when the Holy Spirit left his ass and the shit that he started doing, because he was doing a whole lot of wicked shit, you see? And the Lord ultimately rejected him. And the Lord has rejected a lot of men in these last days, because you have the house of David back here today. The few sincere men, you have the house of Saul. The majority of men teaching in a wicked, envious spirit. They're not teaching it to glorify the Lord, but they're teaching it to glorify themselves. And they're doing this thing for clout. And we see it every single last one of these dudes. That's what makes them, that's what makes it a threat. And they do a smear campaign, which is cool. But we're gonna keep on pursuing and destroying the house of Saul through the spirit and the power of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, because the Lord, he fights for the house of David. Lord willing, we're all that number. But let's get into it, man. This is 1 Samuel chapter 27 and verse 1. Now it says, and David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the house of Saul, by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me that I shall speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. And Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his band. And David arose, and he passed over with 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Moab, king of Gash. Right, so David had to run and flee from Saul, because any time that Saul got, he wanted to kill David. He wanted to pursue David, you see? And then when he would get, David would have the opportunity to kill him, David didn't. And he would say, oh, I'm sorry, my son. I'm not going to follow you anymore. But the next day, because Saul was overtaken by that evil, jealous, wicked spirit, man, that murderous spirit, you see? And the only thing that he had left when the Lord left his ass was to try to destroy the ones that were anointed. All right, David being per se. So let's go ahead and jump to verse 38. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Israel and Achish. And Achish said to David, know thou surely that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men? And David said to Achish, surely thou shalt know that thy servant can do. And Achish said to David, therefore will I make thee keeper of my head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away all those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out the land. So he put away all the wicked and all the wizards. For the scriptures say, you shall not suffer a wish to live. But let's see what Saul did. It says, and when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by the Urim or the Thummim, nor by prophets. So the Lord was not accepting this dude. The Lord was not speaking to this dude. The Holy Spirit has left Saul, and the only thing that he had, because he's seen the host of the Philistines coming. And if the Lord is not with you in a war, you're going to definitely lose to your enemy. The Lord was not with Saul. So what did he have to do? He had to go to a witch. All right. Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that has a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her and her servants. And his servant said unto him, behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit in Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on all the raiments. And he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirits, and bring him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul has done. So she's pretty much this wizard, this witch. She's saying, Saul done already cast out all the wizards. Now you want me to bring up familiar spirits? You see, because to be a witch, that's punishable by death. But that's just how low Saul stooped down. You see, when the Holy Spirit leaves you, you're willing to do anything and everything to save yourself. You see, what did that mean? Being wicked as hell. And that's what Saul stooped down to. That's the traits of the house of Saul. Because they don't have the Holy Spirit, but they still want to be victorious. And how do they have to get that victory? By being wicked. You see, by doing anything and everything except the Lord being with them to be successful. You see, it says, and the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he has cut off all those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then thou layest a snare for my life, to cause me to die. And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what that sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he? And she said, an old man cometh up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel, and he stooped with his face to the ground. And Samuel said to Saul, why hast thou disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am so distressed, for the Philistines make war with me, and the Lord is departed from me, and answers me no more. So the Lord departed from Saul. That's the key thing. And Saul had to use a witch. Saul had to stoop so low to go to a witch, you see, to inquire, to even bring up the soul of Samuel. You see, you got to recognize the spirit of Saul and Saulites that were picking up these Bibles in these last days that were in this truth. You got many guys in high places, which the Holy Spirit is not with them, but what they're able to do is they're able to bewitch the people by speaking smoothly, you see, by the numbers. Because YouTube has become a thing where if a man has a lot of subscribers, or if he has a lot of numbers, automatically the minds of our people, the simple, they run to that. Because all our people look for, they don't look for the Holy Spirit, but they don't look for the counsel of the Lord. They look for the carnal prophets. They look for the wicked prophets. You see? And that's good, because a lot of men that were of the house of Saul, they're back here and they're leading and deceiving the majority of our people, leading them to their death. Alright? And said, then said Samuel, wherefore then thou askest of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy. Right? So the Lord said, so Samuel said, what the hell do you want to, what do you want me to do? The Lord already left your ass, you see? What more do you want me to do? And the Lord has done to him as he spake by me, for the Lord has rent the kingdom out of thy hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David. Because thou obeyest not the voice of the Lord, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore has the Lord done this thing unto thee. Therefore the Lord will deliver Israel with thee into the hands of the Philistines. So you got guys teaching the truth, right? They're teaching the word, but they're not bringing out all the scriptures. They're not coming in the counsel of the Lord. They're only doing this thing to keep a certain position and to keep they want to keep the channels. They want to keep that weak ass channel that they have. You see? They want to bring out the word in a way where they can be loved. Well, the scriptures clearly say that this word is against the majority of our people. It's a stumbling block to the majority of our people. But this is the degenerate death of the house of Saul. This is the slow death of the house of Saul. Everything that he did that led to his death. From the anger and the malice towards David, to him seeking out familiar spirits by this witch. Now what's going to happen next? He's going to be chased and he's going to be destroyed by the Philistines, man. You got to recognize that the house of Saul is still back here today. And the same thing that they were doing back then, they're doing right here now. So it says, 1 Samuel chapter 31 and verse 1. Now, Saul was so filled with hate and envy and pride that the only thing that he could think of was destroying the house of David. You see? Just like guys right now. See, the Holy Spirit have left the majority of guys in this truth. And the only thing that they're filled with, they're not moved by the Holy Spirit to do the work. They only move and they're only preaching of contention and strife. They're only preaching to destroy the righteous. And you know what they do? You see, they don't have the keys of life. It has been shut to them. So guess what? They shut it off from everybody else. And the majority of men that were following these dudes, whether they be in GMS, they be in IUIC, ISUPK, the majority of these dudes following these false prophets, they're going to be destroyed, man. You see? Because it don't matter what camp you're in. The Holy Spirit has been taken off a lot of you guys. And the only thing that you have is that weak channel. All right? Your weak ass subscribers. Okay? Which you can buy subscribers. And all you have is that weak ass shit. You don't have the Holy Spirit backing you up. The Lord is not dealing with the majority of dudes out there. And the Lord was not dealing with Saul. And he had to do a whole lot of wicked shit. You see? So it says, now the Philistines fought against Israel. And the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons. And the Philistines slew Jonathan and Abinadab, right? So they even killed Jonathan. And we know that Jonathan helped David, but Jonathan ultimately was the son of Saul. So he died too. Because when the Lord brings his judgment upon the house of Saul, all you guys in this truth picking up this Bible, and you really hate men that are teaching his word, you slander men that truly believe in his word, and you know who the fuck you are. All right? All you guys with these big ass titles, you see? The Lord is going to kill you in an unmerciful way because you were not merciful to your neighbor. Because you actually slandered men that actually believe in this truth. And for a lot of you guys, you're just bandwagon followers. You see? The house of Saul are many. And the house of David has many enemies, man. You see? The Lord has the spirit in these days where the Lord is actually searching out all the house of Saul. And he's making it known. Reading on, it says, and the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul unto his armor bearer, draw thy sword and thrust me through their rift, lest the uncircumcised come and thrust me through, and abuse me. But his armor bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell on it. So now that's a dishonorable death right there. You see, to fall on your own sword, even his armor bearer will not kill him. You see? Because the Lord wanted to painfully put him to death, man. Because of all his wicked ways. See, right now, man can do all this wicked stuff. And everything could be cool because a lot of guys, they're wicked so they can hang around one another. You see? But the death that the Lord's going to bring upon the house of Saul is going to be a dishonorable death. It's not going to be something small where you just get a bullet to your head. The Lord's going to bring a horrible death. And a death that even your weak, feeble mind cannot comprehend, man. It's going to be something that's going to be a strange punishment that the Lord is going to bring. You see? Why? Because Saul lost the Holy Spirit and he was consumed by hate. Just like we see a lot of guys consumed by hate right now. They don't have the Holy Spirit, but they're only teaching to actually try to slander and throw dirt on men that really believe. Which is actually great because David actually overcame all that and he became king. Reading on, it says, and when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died and his 3 sons and his armor bearer and all his men that day together. So the house of Saul, right? They're teaching the truth. You're teaching the truth, but you have hate in your heart. You're teaching the truth, but the Holy Spirit's not even fucking with you. You see? You know what's with you? You know a lot of men and you're cool for a lot of men. With you and those men are gonna fucking perish. Because the house of Saul and the whole house, they all perish. The Lord put them all to death. You see? So the strange punishment that's gonna come upon the house of Saul in these latter days that are back is gonna be a horrible death that the Lord's gonna bring, man. You see? It's not a light thing to actually go up against men that believe and get away with it. Just like the Lord avenged David, he's gonna avenge the house of David once again today. Alright, reading on, it says, "And it came to pass on the morrow, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons falling in Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent into the land of the Philistines round about." Right, so they cut his head off, and they sent it around the streets of the Philistines. That's a dishonorable death right there. You see? And they put his armor in the house of Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bashan. And the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard of that which the Philistines have done. Right, so they hung Saul to the wall. That's a dishonorable death. All the valiant men arose and went all night and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bashan and came to Jabesh and burnt them there. So after that, they burned his ass, man. That's a dishonorable death. You see? This is what's coming to all the wicked out there that really don't believe. You see, that are faking this thing. Guys that were teaching in a hateful, wicked spirit, man. You see? So you got to recognize that guys may still teach the truth, but the guys are teaching in a wicked spirit. You see? All the house of Saul out there, all you guys that are teaching in a wicked spirit, and you know who the fuck you are, and you actually hate men that truly believe, guess what? The Lord is going to destroy you, man. You see? Not just you, but your whole household. Because the Lord, he repented that he actually made Saul king. You see? This is Psalm chapter 109 and verse 6 says, "Set thou a wicked man over him, and let Satan stand at his right hand." And Satan is standing at the right hand of a majority of dudes teaching this truth that have hate in their heart. You see? So that's the dishonorable death of Saul. See, Saul was prophesying when the Holy Spirit left his ass, but he was prophesying in a wicked spirit, man. And his entire life was only geared to destroy and to try to kill David, man. You see? But what happened at his latter end? The Lord brought the worst punishment upon him. You see, he actually fell by his own sword. This is Psalms 119 and verse 10. It says, "The wicked have laid a snare for me, yet I err not from thy precepts." That's right, man. Psalm 19 and 155, it says, "Salvation is far from the wicked, for they seek not thy statutes." That's right, man. See, so the Lord is going to punish, and the Lord is going to destroy the house of Saul once again out of the earth, man. And they're in all these various camps. You see, you have agents, you got what? You got snakes, you got backbiters, you got dudes that are lukewarm, you got dudes that are just blunt, just cold. They don't even believe in these various camps, man. So the house of Saul, they're going to get that punishment once again. And that's a dishonorable death that the Lord's going to bring, man. A horrible death. Alright, so with that, it's going to be on to the next one. Hey, Shalom.
H, you cook that?
6 chill, for real.